Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of 4Fusion Friday. No, it's not the first Friday of the month. We're a week late, but we're back at you fairly quick with our March installment, Talking Fusion. We got 4 albums, actually 5, plus other goodies and a special guest. Let me introduce the two creators of the show, Mr. George Lamie and Mr. Eric Porter. What's happening, folks?
Wow.
How's it going?
Doing well, doing well. Anxious to talk about more Japanese fusion, and I'm going to turn it over to George. So he's going to introduce our guest and get us started here. George, take it away.
Yeah, we as people know, we had a earlier Japanese fusion episode, and our honored guest here was supposed to be on that. We had a little scheduling conflict at the end, so he couldn't make it. So happy to this was the first guy I thought of when we were putting that one together. Because he knows the Japanese scene really well, like me. He originated the Fuse Zone forum. I joined it in 2010, and he ran it until he got to a point where he didn't want to run it anymore, and he handed the reins over to me and another guy. And he's still a member though, so everybody welcome Sven Levine.
Hey, how you doing?
That's Sven.
Like you guys know Cohen's from there too, and they both know the Japanese scene. It's not exactly something you roll out of bed and know, so I wanted to get someone that knows the stuff.
Yeah, I just went to a concert with Cone. Just
Oh, nice.
yep, the Protocol concert.
Oh,
Yep.
Those Eric's boys.
yes.
That was good stuff.
Well, I do have a couple of new releases to talk about. First off, Guadalquivir Live Bilbao 1980. This is an archival live release from the cult favorite Andalusian band. Andalusian is a mixture of symphonic prog and flamenco, theoretically. For me, it's just Latin fusion. I don't know. It's a very nice recording that has sat in the vaults for this whole time, I guess. And they're not just playing through tunes from the first 2 albums. There's actually a couple of non-album tracks here, which is always good on a live album. This is heavily recommended. It's really good sound. I can't imagine why they've been sitting on it this long, but it's out there. Everybody should check it out. It is available as a hard copy and digital.
Wow, that's must own right there.
Yeah, it's hot. Coincidentally, the other new release, Pat Smythe Quartet, another archival live release from 1973. This is previously unreleased live recordings from 2 different gigs that will be of interest to a lot of people because of the presence of Alan Holdsworth, who is flat out burning it up on this album. A lot of clean tone type tunes, before he found all of the effects that he liked to use after this. It also features Holdsy's soft machine mate, John Marshall, on drums. But honestly, it's all about AH here. It's proto-fusion on the jazzy side, but worth it just to hear early Alan and playing at, a high level. This, you can hear it on Bandcamp, but it is also available as a hard copy. And I do want to take a second here to wish a happy birthday to one of our handful of female fans, Layla Anderfuren, lady friend of Mr. Mike Klingenberg, who was a one-time guest on here in our viewer episode. So happy birthday, Layla. But that is it on the new releases.
Just think about 1973 Holdsworth. Woo, that's early.
Yeah, really.
And
Well,
all this.
did you send that, George? Because we did get a taste of that. Somebody sent a link for the
Yeah,
band.
I put the Bandcamp link up for Ken because I thought it would be up his alley. It's kind of jazzy. On the jazzy side, anyway. Have you heard it, Sven? Because you're a Mr. Holdsworth.
No, this is I usually hear about stuff from you, and that's you're kind of the first point of entry for most of the stuff. So no, I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a link.
Okay.
All right. Well, let us not delay because I know we're itching to dive into this square. Japanese Fusion Part 2. This is again a really compelling group. Alphabetically, you got Exhivision, self-titled. That's 2004. You have Kiyo-Sen, Trick or Treat. That's 2016. Mongol, Doppler 444. That is 1997. And Space Circus, Fantastic Arrival. That is 1979. So we have a decent mix here of eras. Eric, we like to kick these things off with you. You give us a good start every time. Let's hear about your number 4.
All right. So these are 4 I'd never heard before. So this month's listening was completely new to me. I don't own any of these. So Sven, as you did, I was digital this month and had everything. Luckily, they were all on Apple Music. But my number 4, I'm going with Space Circus, Fantastic Arrival. And I think the reason is the bassist like the leader of this band. I know this was like there's a lot of bass on this. Very upfront. I don't know if it's the mix that kind of got me, but it seemed a little too upfront to me. There were times where I don't think I was hearing the guitar as well as I thought I would. And there's 2 guitar players, which I didn't realize till I went through and was looking at the credits. I like the fact that they used the violin. I wish they used it more, actually. It does come out in a couple tracks, but I kind of would have liked to seen that spread out a little more. And I felt they had, at least the guitar players had more of a rock vibe, I thought, than Fusion. I thought they were more straight ahead players. Not that there was anything wrong with the playing. I just got that vibe from them. There was more of a rock kind of a thing than jazzy or fusion in terms of the guitar playing. Good stuff. I mean, I thought they were very lyrical, very melodic. I really liked it. I think my favorite track was Demon Blast, the second track. That's probably the one that stood out to me, but I just found, whether it was the mix or very bass heavy to me, that was just my take on it. But overall, really good stuff. Is this the only thing they ever did, George?
They did one before this, and then that was it.
Okay.
And the bassist is not the leader. I
Okay.
think it's a mix issue. He is pretty mixed pretty high.
I thought so. And the keyboard's a lot. There's, and I know we're talking, this was 79.
Yeah.
So, but to me, it just seemed like he was a little too prominent in the mix.
Yeah. All right. Sven, what do you got it for?
So I had Space Circus as well for number 4. And so some of the things that hit me, I mean, I think this 70s Japanese fusion is always kind of fascinating to me, or just Japanese culture in general in the 70s, because it seems like the game was always like, let's emulate Western culture. And so to me, like the influences were pretty obvious. I mean, I was listening to a lot of these tunes and pretty blatant Al Di Meola. I felt like you could sort of tell, you know, what these guys were listening to and who they were fans of. I was, you know, hearing a little Stanley Clarke in there, but yeah, some of the tunes just were sort of like blatant Al Di Meola to me. I think what's always interesting though is like in all the emulation, that it's sort of the stuff that comes out that's really not kind of Western. It's always what kind of interests me with Japanese fusion. And there's a couple tunes in here that are, I think, like the third one, Acral Dream, and then 6, Arcadia, that have this kind of like anthemy, kind of happy sort of a thing going on that I hear sometimes in Japanese fusion. That was, you know, in all the emulation, that seems like I don't know, it's some piece of culture that's coming out there that I find kind of interesting. But for me, I mean, there's some really good playing, but it just, I'm just hearing a lot of the emulation, and it didn't seem to have kind of the character that, you know, some of the US releases that really stand out to me have. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my 2 cents. It was, you know, good, solid record, but it, you know, not very memorable just because it's I felt like it was pretty derivative.
All right. Pete, what do you got?
No, so we're off to a start that I think I might be the contrarian today, but we'll see. Um, well, two of these albums I've had for a long time, and one George hooked me up with not that long ago, and the other one was completely new to me. So this was kind of like a nice mix for me. But for me, there was the top three, and then there was number four. And I do like all of them. So there's no stinkers here by any means. But number four for me was clearly the Kiyo-Sen Trick or Treat. And for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm a big Hammond organ fan. So I think Kiyomi Otaka's organ tones on this album are splendid. Eternal Ability, 5 meters high. Both of them are terrific. To me, I hear like ELP meets fusion, which I kind of like. There's like this Keith Emerson thing going on. Outbreak is really intense. I like Adventure. I think Senri Kumaguchi, I think her name is. Her drumming is off the charts throughout the whole thing. I like that we hear a little bit of guitar on Haphazardly Reprise, which of course is Mr. Yabori comes in. I think he worked on the production of this album and he plays a little guitar. I wish we heard more of that. To me, it's just it's so like Hammond drum heavy throughout the whole thing, and I like that. But I wanted some different soloists on the album, which you don't really get. And to me, that kind of made this album stick out amongst the three. There just seems to be a little less variety on here. But the arrangements are really cool and the playing is masterful. I just wanted something else, I think. So for me, this was an easy number four. And then there's everything else. But there's not like there's a huge gulf there. But I mean, Otaki's a great player. I would love to hear her in something where there's like a guitar player and maybe like a horn or a woodwind player and a bass player who's doing something really interesting. It's just just having the two of them be the main players in this band. I wanted something a little extra.
All right. Well, number four is the Exhivision. This is the product of Akira Wada and Toshimi Nagai. They are from, well, we talked about the Winds record. They're on that, the same pair. Akira Wada is known mostly for Prism. He's had Prism going since 1977 until his death a few years ago. Well, like the Winds, this is aggressive fusion. My favorites here are Other Side and Windine. Both of those go hard. I mean, those are killer tunes. But the thing about this is there are multiple tracks that I think that strike me as a kind of so-so, notably Night View and Fairy Tale. Fairy Tale, I mean, you can, by the title, you can be pretty sure it's not going to be the best song you've ever heard. Fairy Tale kind of is, that's what it ends up to be. They did two other records, another studio record and then a live record. All of the good quality, really good band. The guy is a good, very, very good writer, one of the better writers. Awada didn't write anything on here. Like, it's split up between the guy and the keyboard player, and the drummer wrote one song. But yeah, it's great. Like all four of these are great in my eyes, but this one's got a couple of down tracks for me, so I put it at 4. Eric?
All right, I'm going with Kiyo-Sen at 3. And am I the only one who got fooled by Mood 68 when I first heard it? I'm like, oh, some guitar there. And
Yeah,
it took me a little, yep. But that's a killer track. And I agree with pretty much what Pete said. It's a lot of, you get that Hammond, ELP, very ELP-ish, but terrific. I really enjoyed those. And I think Mood 68 and is it 2B Outbreak that has guitar on it. And then the Reprise at the end, that's more of a traditional kind of a clean tone, but really nice guitar. But I agree with Pete. Had he played more on this record, I really think this would have come out maybe even higher. I really liked it. I mean, I love Hammond, same as Pete said, and I just, I thought the tunes were good. I really liked it. I thought obviously the band playing behind, the bass and drums were really well done on this. I obviously would like to hear more guitar on it, but I thought this was really good stuff. I really enjoyed it. And I did make a mistake, George. I think you had sent me this or either a mix of Kiyo-Sen. So I know I've had this, but probably hadn't listened to it since I first got it from you. Really good stuff, though. I really enjoyed them. So that's my number 3.
Let me do a quick mea culpa. I probably should have sent a different record. Not like Yabori plays on a lot of tracks on any of them, but this one less. I could have sent
Okay.
Organizer or Dramatica. He might be on 3 or 4 instead of 1 or just a couple, but
So he's produced all their stuff and then he plays on a
he's
few
married
things.
to Otaka. So
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Sven, what do you got at 3?
Okay, so my number 3 is Mongol Doppler 444. So just kind of going through my notes here. The second tune, Garama, kind of stood out to me. I mean, I guess that like how the beginnings felt like kind of a dense, proggy intro that had kind of 80s vibe to it. And one of the things that really hit me in this tune was how convincing this guy was at coming close to Holdsworth. This guy is like, one of the closest I've heard, honestly. I mean, the tone was not quite there, and some of the vocabulary was just total Holdsworth, very close Holdsworth. And I, really pretty fun tunes. I mean, a lot of variety going through the tunes and sort of changing up the kind of textures, which was nice. One of the last tunes, Grateful Paradise, is 18-minute song. And parts of that are almost kind of disturbing in a way. Just there's this kind of monotonous beat, and it was this weird sort of like, was not really an enjoyable tune. It really set a mood, but it was kind of a slog getting through that one. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, great musicianship. I think a really good album on a lot of levels. The thing that really just knocked it down to 3rd place for me is just, for me, this is where I can get kind of dogmatic, but the real joy in fusion is when there's some functional harmony. So I love it when there's changes. People playing through changes, one of my favorite things to do, and I love the music that has some functional harmony in it. And this was more like just kind of very static compositions. There wasn't a lot of changes. And that was like the one thing that just, I think, knocked it down. That's, personal kind of a preference. So that's it. The other one.
Pete, where are you headed for 3?
I'm going to go with Mongol Doppler 444 for number 3. So I bought this pretty close to when it first came out. So I've had this for a long time, and it's a shame it was their only album, right? I mean, and I think I will agree with Sven a little bit. I think this would have been. I like this album a lot. This was tough. My top 3 were pretty tough here. But I think the reason why it's 3 and not a little higher, I think the compositions could have been a little tighter. This kind of, I got these long tracks. It's kind of loose. There's some great playing on here. I mean, Horifumi Mitoma is a terrific guitar player. And he does these amazing Holdsworth style legato solos that are just absolutely breathtaking. At times, like some of these songs, remind me of UK, but a little more fusiony, obviously. To be honest, just such a great song. I really like that a lot. I also like Garadama is excellent. Driller, I wrote this in my notes, is all killer, no filler. I love that. I mean, that's such like a low-hanging fruit to say that, but it's really good. I will say Grateful Paradise, though, did not need to be 18 minutes. There's some really cool stuff going on that track, but man, it just meanders a little bit for me. But overall, I think this is an excellent album. There's some great playing on here. I think if the songs were just a little bit tighter and maybe you knock off, I don't know, 5 or 8 minutes from Grateful Paradise, I think this is a better album. But it's still really, really good, and I would highly recommend this to anybody. There's just some great players on here, and Takeshi Yasumoto is a really, really good synth player, really good keyboard player. So yeah, number 3, but it's really good. Really good. I like it a lot.
I'll keep it going. Mongol, my number 3. Another standard quartet, guitar, bass, drums, keys. More aggressive even than Exhibition. This is pretty aggressive stuff. If you like the hard hitting fusion, this is probably the one for you this month. The guitarist Hirofumi Mitoma, he, like Sven said, he does a really convincing Holdsworth. The tone, the techniques. I mean, he doesn't take it out there like that, but I mean, he's pretty damn close. The first 5 tracks on this are lethal. I mean, especially Driller and Garadama. Love those tracks. But Grateful Paradise is basically a Zool tune. I mean, it's not even at the end, it kind of go standard fusion, but up until like the first 15 minutes are basically a slog. It's like a droning. To me, that brings it down. I mean, without that, if you put like 2 fusion tunes in there, this might be my number 1. I really like it, but that tune just drags it down. So I ended up sticking at number 3. Eric?
You can leave that up. That's my number 2. And I think pretty much what everyone said, if Great Paradise had maybe been 2 different and shorter tracks, I love the aggressiveness of these guys. The only other maybe questionable thing is some of the keyboard tones were, but I'm listening to the guitar anyway, so that doesn't bother me too much. And then I think, the opener, I think you guys had mentioned the opener, Garadama, Driller, he's absolutely killing it. That's fantastic playing on that one. And again, I think the ending track is so long, and it's just, I honestly think I listened to it once and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to go back to that one. So that might have been what kept this one from being number 1 for me, because like you said, George, I think that's the stuff I'm really digging lately, is the aggressive stuff. But that last track just kind of kills the momentum of the record. But other than that, guitar playing is fantastic. The band is great behind them. So really good stuff. And like you said, if you like the aggressive stuff, this is the band for sure.
I'm sure there's somebody out there like is probably saying, oh, it's 1 song. Yeah, but it's 18 and a half minutes.
Yeah, there's only 6, and right, that's that one is way too long.
All right, Sven, what do you got in the 2 hole?
Okay, so number 2 for me was the Exhivision, self-titled. And to me, this was just a really solid fusion album that is really hitting on most levels. It's just really enjoyable. There's a lot of hook. I mean, I think a lot of the tunes kind of stick with me. They're really like, just catchy hooks in these in parts of these tunes, which is you don't always have that in fusion. But then you also have just blatant blowing, there's just a lot of soloing. Sometimes I think there was like maybe 2 guitar solos in some of these, and just a lot of texture within the tunes. I like the way, like one of them, Scent of Nova. I mean, the beginning kind of remind me of like Jeff Beck's Space Boogie a little bit. And then it just kind of went into this sort of Holdsworth and style guitar solo. And there's an acoustic piano solo in there. So there's just a lot of just variety going through these tunes, which I thought it made it really interesting. One of them, I guess, other side almost had like a speed metal kind of intro to it that I thought was kind of interesting. Just a really fun album to listen to. Let's see what else in here. Number 6, which has a kind of a Japanese name. In my copy, it's just Japanese writing. I don't know what it's called, but that had this really kind of hard driving, frenetic kind of intro that reminds me of some of the Fragile stuff a little bit. Maybe a little more proggy. There's something that was even like a little Zappa like in there. Then there was kind of a neoclassical thing thrown in there, and then like a B3 solo. So just really fun, just the way these things move around. A little bit of like almost Jeff Beck influence I was hearing too from the guitar player. What else? The last tune, the Fairy Tales, that was kind of interesting. I was trying to figure out what time signature that was in, and I think it's an 11. I don't know if any of you guys bothered to try and count it out. But yeah, I mean, I think it really just, I feel like it hits on kind of every level that I want Fusion to hit on. It's sort of, self-indulgent in a lot of ways with the soloing, but I think the one thing that just held it back from first place for me was that it was just a little cheesy, something about it. Some of the tunes were just almost bordered on a little bit of that sort of light jazz, kind of 80s sort of a thing, and that's probably the one thing that just knocked it down, made it my second place.
Pete, what do you got?
Exhivision, number 2. Another one I've had since it first came out. I think it's a terrific album that probably could have been number 1, but I think there's, like you mentioned, George, there's a couple tracks, maybe 2, that are a little kind of mellow and soft, but the rest of it just absolutely kills. I mean, this keyboard player is so good. Hiroyuki Namba, is that his name? Hope I'm saying that right. He's like the main guy, and he plays some great stuff on here. But man, this guy Akira Wada, whew, he steals the show on this album. That guy is a terrific player. I think Scent of Nova is one of my favorite songs on any of these albums. It's just so good. And both of those guys just totally like go off over these really great tight rhythms. Love that. Double Down is amazing. Sven mentioned The Other Side. I mean, that's heavy. And the organ there is like, oh, it's just so good. I also like Hayaki Somel. That's one of the Japanese title ones. That's really, really good as well. Icebound is kind of mellow, but there's some good moments on it. Same thing with Wind Dime. But for the most part, this is really classy, fun, ripping playing. Love the guitar playing, love the keyboard playing. It's just a really, really enjoyable album. And unfortunately, I never bought anything else from them. So I don't know how many other albums they have, but this is the only one I ever owned, and it's a good one. Number 2.
I believe I sent you the second one, and then it's just a live one after that.
Did you? Maybe you did. Oh, that was probably a while ago, right?
Yeah, months ago.
Yeah.
Dig it out, check it out.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
My number 2 is the Space Circus. Another quartet configuration, guitar, bass, drums, keys. Though this album has the keyboard player is treated as a special guest on there, listed as special guest. He's not the guy from the first album, so perhaps he's just like a session guy. But really cool 70s sounding record. Opener, heavy duty Space Dragon, propelled by the bass, like Eric said, a little too up front in the mix. I don't know, he's loud and the other 3 guys are all kind of quiet. So it's not the greatest mix in the world. But it's the keyboard and the guitars that take the solo space on quite a bit of this. I'm struggling to remember extended bass solos on it. It's more about his rhythms. His riffs are very, they poke through the mix and they're up front. He writes a little bit more than the rest of the guys, but not a lot. He wrote a couple by himself, and then there's co-writes, and I think the drummer wrote one song too. Like Sven said, there's a definite Team Yola on one track in particular. I think it's on track Hot People. That's it. Yeah. That definitely recalling Team Yola on that one. Hot People and Heavy Duty Space Dragon are probably my favorites here. Even the Resident Softy, Acryl Dream, I like that too. And there's a real pretty like symphonic like where the chorus would be, there's like a symphonic melody that it's real nice, gorgeous chorus. Just a really good period piece for me. No down track on it to my eyes, and the first album is pretty much the same. So you can't go wrong with these guys if you like this. I do believe Greg has them over at Symphonic, and they're like $20, so not bad at all. So that's my number 2, Space Circus.
Thank you for that little tidbit of information, George.
Yeah,
That's what you need, Pete. Spend more money.
He's got the Mongol too, if anybody wants the Mongol.
Oh, okay.
Like $16 or something like that.
Awesome.
I think that's who I bought it from all those years ago.
Yeah.
He's got a good stock of some of this type of stuff. So
You got the hard copy of Exhivision. I don't have that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I bought that when it came out. It's a long time ago.
Well, let's hear about your number one, Eric. Why you're so impressed.
I'm going with the Exhivision. Akira Wada, you guys said he's fantastic. You set me up again this month, George. Some great guitar all the way through this. Sen of Nova, fantastic opener. The piano stuff on here is great too. There's a couple songs that have piano solos on them that are, and this has one. And you mentioned, I think, and I'm just checking my notes, Night Views. And I want to see if this hit Pete. Did the keyboard synth solo remind you of Ice at all from Camel?
I
don't
do
know if
put
it
some
was-
Camel stuff on here. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the tone he was using, what keyboard he was using, but I got that because I think that's Kit Watkins, right, who plays on Ice. So that right away, I was like, oh, that sounds terrific. So I really dug that. And again, for some reason, a couple of the closers were the things that kind of took me, and Fairy Tale for me was kind of like, I wish that had maybe, and we always talk about sequencing. Maybe that could have been slotted somewhere and maybe left something heavier to close the album. But really, other than that, like you were saying, I think Double Down, fantastic. Windine, I mean, just, and maybe there is a little more show sometimes than, but I love this guy's playing. So if he wants to solo 2 or 3 times on a song, let him rip because he's fantastic. But I thought it was fairly melodic too. The playing, these are songs that stick. You got to listen to them a few times, but I think after that, the songs I really dug stayed with me. So this was number one for me. It was close. That Mongol was right there with it, but the 1 and 2, I went with this one at number 1.
Sven?
All right, to number 1. So number 1 for me was Kiyo-Sen. I really like the concept of this album. It's basically a fusion album, but it's this B3 driven thing, which there's just not too much of that really in the fusion world. I mean, there are other keys in there too. There's some a little bit of Rhodes, and there's some kind of cool, kind of acidic synth tones in there as well. But there's something like, I don't really mind that there's not guitar and other things in this album aside from the last track. I think just the concept is good, and what they're doing with that palette, I think, is really fun. Just what can we do with the B3? Going through some of it. There was a lot of, I love the really hard driving bass, just the slap bass that was propelling this along. 5 meters high, the 5th one reminded me just a little bit of like a Snarky Puppy vibe to that for me. I think it had a Rhodes intro. The 7th cut, To Be Outbreak, was like almost like a metal kind of a vibe to it with the with Hammond organ. Then there's some cool, just like groovy funk tunes in there. So just, good variety of tunes. And to me, this has the vibe of like the kind of the Koichi Yobori Fragile kind of, I think they're in that community, but it has the sort of the feel of those other recordings. And I really, to me, that kind of, tone of these tunes is, it feels really comfortable to me. Like, it's not, how I said the Exhivision was a little hokey. The Kiyo-Sen it feels very current and not, I don't know, I guess the best way to say it is it's not dated. It just feels like, it sets well with me is the best way to describe it. So yeah, that's, I guess another thing to add, I think that I feel like this one is going to withstand the test of time really well. Like, I feel like, 10, 20 years down the road, I think this will still be a good album. Maybe I'll be wrong, but that was my hunch. So.
Cool. Pete?
So I have Space Circus as number 1. No surprise there. It's from the 70s, right? I mean, And I agree. They obviously show their influences, right? And but I'm okay with that. I mean, it's that time period. I'm sure they were soaking up everything that came before them. Like I hear especially like on the first track, I hear bits of like that first Todd Rundgren Utopia album, especially like the synth tones. I hear a little bit of Wired era Jeff Beck. I mean, these guys are great players, every one of them. And I don't really mind that the bass is a little high in the mix because the guy's just a killer bass player. Heavy Duty Space Dragon might be my favorite track on the album. Blows my mind. Demon Blast is great. I love his riffing and soloing on it. I mean, this guy's just such a good player. And the rhythm section just like completely knocks my socks off. This is like so in my wheelhouse. I mentioned Pop People before. It sounds like RTF. Love it. I love RTF. I'm okay with that. Dawn of Aquarius Age has that vibe too, but I hear like a little 11th House. There's like a little bit looseness in some of the soloing that reminds me of Coriel's band. Um, Arcadia and Acral Dream are both really nice and melodic, and I don't mind that they're a little mellower. There's some really interesting things going on there. And the title track, I think, it's got a little prog going on. Mixing it with fusion might be a little on the longish side, but I really dig it a lot. I don't know. I think this is a really, really great album. I love the guitar solos, love the keyboard solos. I love the vibe of it. And yeah, this rose above the two that I've had forever that I thought one of those two would be, vying for number one, but man, this just kind of shot right past them. So yeah, Space Circus, Fantastic Arrival is fantastic.
My number one is Kiyo-Sen. I was chatting actually today during the day with one of our most faithful YouTube viewers, Table 6, and he says, I predict you're going to have this number one for one reason, songwriting. And that's what it is to me. This is the best songwriting. It doesn't rely on blowing at all. Although there's some blowing on here. He also predicted that you guys both pick Exhibition number one, so you got that half right. But
Are we that predictable, George?
or maybe he's that insightful. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah. This is all about songwriting. To Be Outbreak absolutely smokes. Hard driving stuff. Solos from both of the gals on that one, really good solos. And that's the one tune where Koichi Ibori comes in and blasts. But Adventure is an even better tune. Adventure to me is the best song on all these albums, across all these albums. Incredible slap bass line. Senri going off on the drums. She's got a playthrough on YouTube if anybody wants to check that out. Check out the playthrough of Adventure. But that's some guy named David Hughes guesting on bass on that tune. I have no idea who that is. I think he played on one Ubori album, so maybe he got used because of that, because Ubori tends to produce these records.
I just saw a quick thing on him, George. It just said he's a really well-known or well-used session player, and I thought it said he was out of California, but I don't know if that's okay.
When Ubori did the Bloomfield record, about half the tunes was a California crew, was like him and Kinsey, and Gary Novak, and then he had Robin Ford guest on a track, so he came with all those guys, so that's probably correct. Haphazardly is another great tune. There's not a single lesser tune on this until you get to the closer ballad, which is more like a R&B smooth kind of tune. Not bad, but not my flavor. But the rest of the album I love this whole stretch of albums from them. The two after that, those three together, it's great. Organizer and Dramatica. This is a great run. If you want to hear their stuff with Ubori, he's on both live albums, all of it, so you can, one of them is from this tour and he's on the whole damn thing. So it is interesting, but they didn't become my definitive version. So I guess like Sven, I don't really miss no guitar, but yeah, my number one is Kiyo-Sen.
That's an us thing, Eric.
I know. I can live with it though.
I'm outnumbered this month, 3-1 with guitar players in the room. All right. Well, the George's pick. I did not upload the picture, so I'll have to hold up the hard copy. Daisuke Kunita, In This Life. Kunita is a guy that went to Berkeley. I believe he's a Berkeley grad. His first album was 2007 on Musea. Then it took till 2014 to put this one out. But in between, he did 2 albums with the band Enigmatic Drive over there, which is an incredible band, like kind of Panzer Ballet-ish, with Kunita and a really creative sax/Iwi player. But it's this one we're here to talk about. It's got some interesting guests, and I think he's a great guitar player, but I want to consult the expert here. Eric, what did you think of this one?
Well, I have 2 questions for you. Does Greg Walker have this CD?
No,
Is it-
but he
okay.
sells it on his Bandcamp. Like
Okay.
18 bucks, Kunita. And
And number
Kunita is
2, could this be my number 1? Because I loved it. I absolutely love this guy. And I think one of the things that I got on probably by the second listen, I'm like, this is really diverse. I mean, there's a lot of different things going. I mean, the opener On My Way to Chelsea is absolute fire. So if you hear that and you don't want to go any further, something's wrong with you, because this guy is phenomenal. But it's got Hiromi, which we all love Hiromi. We talk about her. She's on Hemingway Street. And, you know, there were different vibes to this. I got a little Hendrix vibe from Vertigo. Smoked Salmon Boogie is just a cool bluesy, you know, but a rockin' bluesy kind of tune. And George, I know that's not always your thing, but I just found this to be really diverse. The I guess that track, Fierce, right? There's some great playing in that, but it starts out, I think that is kind of mellow and then just fires up. But I absolutely love this. And I think it's Alex Masachek plays on track 8.
Flatline, yeah.
That one's
Flatline.
kind of metally, right? That's got like a metal feel to that track. So
No, you're confusing it with Split Mentality.
Okay. All right. Split Mentality. But, you know, that's what I mean. I think there's so many, he kind of touches on all these different things. And he does everything well. So this was my favorite of the 5, we'll say, even though it's the George pick. So, but I loved it. Loved him. Loved the tunes. Loved the playing. Just great stuff.
Sven, what's your take on this record?
So for the 6th tune, is it sh or is it SSH? I thought it was actually SSH.
You might be right.
Okay. So yeah, I love this. I love Daisuke. I've been a big fan ever since his first album. I guess he studied under Wayne Krantz quite a bit. Was one of the things that I learned, and you can really hear that in his playing. He has kind of just that sort of restless kind of jumping around thing that he does, where it's always moving, and just the the kind of the quick chord movement. And in a lot of ways, this kind of strikes me as sort of like the kind of albums that come out from like kind of the young music school guys. Very in that vein, I think. Just in sort of the vibe of it and the style of playing, which I enjoy quite a bit. Really guitaristic. Like, I think a lot of fusion players tend to play more horn-like, but he really just kind of embraces this is a guitar. He's like doing kind of Hendrixy stuff sometimes, and just really like, a lot of chordal stuff and really percussive. And he does some more legato stuff too, but he really does a lot of just more rhythmic percussive stuff that just reminds you that he's like a guitarist. So yeah, just great album. I thoroughly enjoy it on every level.
You too, Pete, or no?
Oh yeah, 2 thumbs up. This is really good, and I think I sometimes when I see like an album has like lots of guest stars, I'm always kind of like, all right, sometimes that can work and sometimes not. But I think to his credit, it's almost like he knew which of his guests were going to appear on certain tracks, and he kind of envisioned these songs and based on who was going to play on them. And I think that really helps bring the variety that Eric was talking about. And because you get different flavors all the time, depending on who he's got, like the, what is it? Smoked Salmon Boogie. I mean, he's got Steve Hunt playing some great Hammond and synth on that. That gives a certain flavor there. The tune with Alex Machasik, Flatline, sounds like maybe like an Alan Holdsworth solo piece. It's got this kind of spaciness to it. They both kind of feed off each other really, really good. I love the stuff with Hiromi. I mean, you know, was it Hemingway Street is kind of funky. You got this great guitar solo and that majestic piano, just so good. But man, like On My Way to Chelsea, Split Mentality, just crushing songs. Love him. Really, really, really tasty player. I want to hear more of this guy.
I do too.
Good stuff.
Yeah, this is second of 3 solo albums. He's got them all on his band. Well, he's got the second and third on his Bandcamp. I think the first one came out of Musea, so I don't know if I don't remember him selling that one anymore, but honestly, the second and third are really where it's at. It's killer stuff.
This one's on Musea. Greg Walker probably has it.
Yeah, maybe.
He carries everything from Musea.
I like the same song Strike Me, Hemingway Street. I mean, Hiromi just kills it on that. I mean, they're trading solos back and forth. She's using different patches on there. It's just a really, I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote it around her. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he wrote it and then just had the exact right pick for a sideman, because I mean, she fits like a glove. Smoke Salmon Boogie, Steve Hunt. Remind me, the solo in there remind me of Jan Hammer, the Moog solo he does.
Yeah, big time. Yep.
Channeling Jan Hammer big time. Steve Hunt's another Berkeley guy, really cool dude. Yeah, Flatline is a remake from the first album. I think this version's better. It's a little shorter, and then adding Makashik, of course, I mean, that's not going to make anything worse. Vertigo is one of my favorite tunes on here.
That bass player, Jiro Okada. Woo.
Yeah, he's another guy, been around for a while. I believe he's the guy in Tri-Offensive. So
okay.
He's a killer. Split Mentality, of course, lays on the crunch, Pete and I are always going to go for that. I feel like some of the melodies and the soloing in there is kind of Beckish. I heard a little Beck in there. Hope is a guitar ballad to close. Not my favorite song on there. But I guess closers this month are a little problematic, but Daisuke, I told him we were going to be doing this, so he's looking forward to this one. And I would tell him, first of all, get another album going, but second of all, try and get another Enigmatic Drive album out, because that band was really super creative too. And I mean, the dude's just, we need to hear more of him. It's just not enough stuff with him on it. So Daisuke Kunita is In My Life, which interesting album cover too. What is that, like a Japanese skyscraper or something?
High rise, yeah.
A hotel. Looks like some of the buildings downtown here. Very interesting. But yeah, I had a feeling it would go over well. I hear some Holdsworth in him, and I also hear the Wayne Krantz definitely with the accordion.
Yeah.
That's skipping around on the accordion, especially on the opener.
He does everything well, though. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff on here, and everything is just good stuff.
Yeah, I think he whips out some Gambali sweeps on that tune too. I mean, he's got a little bit of everything going. He's got a fairly populated YouTube page. If anybody wants to check out video of him, there's quite a bit of video out there of him. So really killer player. Again, I mean, Japan is just rife with incredible players and writers. This group of, I mean, we're on our second group of albums here, and the quality has not suffered in one bit. So.
Probably only just scratched the surface, right? So
yeah, it's kind of amazing how deep it is over there.
Cool. Well, now that we've dipped into Japan once again, George, you want to give everybody a little taste of what to expect next month?
Yeah, it's going to be live albums part 2. We haven't been back doing live albums in I don't know, it seems like 6 months. And there will be a Taste of Japan in there. We're doing there's going to be I'll give you a little preview. There's going to be a Prism album in there. So Akira Wada will be back in front of Eric. another chance to hear him and a few others. And we should have Mike Jacobs in the chair for that one.
Cool. Always good to see Mike on here. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching here tonight once again. And you know how it goes. Not only are we listening to and thinking about how we rank these 4 albums, but we're asking everybody to do the same thing down there in the comments. So make sure you give these a listen. Gary, we know you've been listening intently, so we expect to see the 4 square rank from Gary Joyce, the principal. And I want to thank Sven for joining us here today. Pleasure to have you on.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Got it. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together.
All the
All-
damn
all the
time.
Time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. What do we got coming up here on the channel? It's been a busy Friday here. So tomorrow we've got the UK Connection, Simon Bray, Stephen Reed, and myself, up to no good once again, diving back into AOR melodic rock land. And then on Sunday, ranking the albums, myself and Scott Lade from the Prog Corner talking about Arabs and Aspic, the great Norwegian heavy prog band. So lots more to come this weekend, so stay tuned. And we got In the Prog Seat coming up on Tuesday. It's all about Gentle Giant, so don't miss that either. For Sven, George, and Eric, I am Pete. Thanks for watching us here on 4Fusion Friday. See you next month. Till then, have a good one. Bye-bye.